Excellent. Perfect. Well, so we are gonna go through a couple updates, information, and then we'll talk about the point in time count. There's quite a few things related to CoC governance that we'll update you on. And then ideally, I want to have a good chunk of time to turn it over to you all to give information sharing updates on your kind of where you're at and what your agency is doing. There's a lot of new folks that are joining us as well. So I think it'll be helpful to kind of give a little bit more time for sharing out. So kind of digging into some updates here. Our first update I wanted to just give you all, so not everybody, this doesn't pertain to everybody, but for those agencies who have who are awaiting knowing whether or not they were funded for Emergency Solutions Grant. So ESG. ESG is a type of funding that is it's federal funding that's passed through the Division of Housing, the State of Colorado Division of Housing. It also needs to be coordinated. The agencies that receive this Emergency Solutions Grant, it needs to be coordinated with the work of the Continuum of Care. In the past, the Continuum of Care kind of managed the funds, and this year all of the ESG funds are being kind of managed by the state of Colorado. And they those applications were due in the fall of last year. They have not made their decisions yet. So it's not that you haven't been funded, it's that they are waiting on they're trying to piece together different pots of money to then kind of all put it all together as like, this is what's available for these shelter, rapid rehousing, homeless prevention, street outreach projects. And they just don't have the confirmation on the exact amount yet because it's multiple different sources. So hopefully soon you should hear something. But I've been getting a couple of emails from people being like, like what's going on with it? So I wanted to give that update. The next just update is, so many of you also know that the Division of Housing released their transformational housing and homelessness grant programs. Probably many of you are working furiously on either have already submitted your letter of intent or are working on that. The letter of intent for the first round of the transformational homelessness grant program is due on the 15th of this month, and the application itself is due on the 15th of next month. So I know about several programs. I will just put a plug out there for any programs that are looking to apply to that transformational grant. That bucket of funds, whether it's for housing or for homelessness, and you would like a letter of support from the Continuum of Care. It says in there that they're recommended. I would suggest you coordinating your project with the CoC, and also in general coordinating it with what's going on in homelessness, and part of that is getting a letter of support. So if you haven't asked for one already, please make sure you get those requests to me by February 8th is what I'm going to, the date I'm going to put on that. I'll send out an email kind of recapping all of this to everybody after the meeting. But like I said, I'll be out of town for a couple weeks. And so I would like to have those requests in my inbox so I can get them done as soon as I get back and out to you all. To have your application on time. Any questions on either of those grant related kind of updates or thoughts? All right, great. So next we're going to just transition. I'd like to share with you a kind of a report or a letter, or I don't know exactly what I want to call it, but I wrote up a document that describes all of the accomplishments that the Continuum of Care did in 2022 and some of our goals that we're looking forward to in 2023. I'm going to share this document out via email after this meeting, but I thought it would be kind of nice to go through all of this together. So let me share my screen real fast here. Okay. All right. So in 2022, we had a really big year. So this, for those of you who are a little newer to the CoC, so Northern Colorado Continuum of Care is one of the newest continuums of care in the country. So we've only become our own kind of standalone CoC, and this will be our third year. And so with that, there's been a lot of just a lot of growth that we've gone through and lots of changes and things like that. So here are a few of the highlights. So I think one of the biggest successes of this last year that I really wanted to point out is all of the work that our CAPS process, which stands for Coordinated Assessment Housing Placement System, CAPS. That's our system that the CoC manages, where people who are experiencing homelessness are identified. They're offered to have an assessment for their housing needs, and then they're put onto a community by name list. And that list is dynamic. So it's not a first come, first served list. It's really meant to know who's in our community experiencing homelessness, who is vulnerable, like the most vulnerable, and also what type of housing resource or opportunity would be the best fit for them. And so it's a very collaborative process. I'll talk a little bit more about some changes we're making to CAPS later on in the meeting. But this past year, the CAPS collective identified and assessed a little over 1,400 homeless households. And then 468 were permanently housed through CAPS. And so what I mean by that is that 468 number is not including any households that self-resolved necessarily, or they kind of came in, were identified and assessed, and then left quickly. A lot of times people move elsewhere and we just, we don't know where they end up. And so we don't have kind of their housing outcome information recorded. But this number includes people who received housing resources that were assigned through CAPS, or received the case management support to go into permanent housing on their own. And so that's a really big deal. There's also 43 partner agencies working with CAPS. There's 3 collaborative case conferencing meetings every week, and representatives from many agencies who are all working together on this, which I think is pretty incredible. This year, we actually onboarded 11 new partners, so we're expanding, which is great. All right. One of the other kind of big accomplishments that we did this year is, I had mentioned earlier, so the Continuum of Care has historically received this emergency solutions, or ESG funding, and then granted that out, so kind of acted as a fiscal agent for agencies that were doing primarily rapid rehousing, also some emergency shelter funding, particularly the ESG CV funds, which were the coronavirus kind of response funds that our community in 2020. But just in 2022 alone, the CoC distributed a little over $1 million in regular emergency solutions grant and then the coronavirus specific ESG to different partner agencies for mostly rapid rehousing, but also a little bit of emergency shelter. And just with these funds, those funds housed 216 people this past year. That's pretty exciting. We also, this year we hired a director, so myself. We never have had, we have not had a director for a long period of time until this year. And so really it's just having staff capacity put towards like really focusing on continuum of care governance and administration, and kind of just giving some support to keeping the collaboration going is such a huge accomplishment for us, because previously all of this was done with basically volunteering, people volunteering their time to make sure that this process was working. So it's exciting to have staff that can kind of make sure things are moving forward. And so part of that staff time is really doing all of the work necessary to respond to the HUD, so the Housing and Urban Development has a COC, they call it a CoC program. And kind of it's a little confusing because we're a CoC, they have a CoC program. Our region, our CoC region has to apply as a region to receive CoC program funds every year in what's called a Notice of Funding Opportunity, or a NoCO. And so this year, this happens every single year, and it is a very complex process to apply for these funds. There's quite a few steps. We have to submit what's called a consolidated application that talks about pretty much everything that we're doing in Northern Colorado to address homelessness, whether the government funds it or not. And we have to meet certain benchmarks to be considered a competitive continuum of care. And so this year in 2022, we had that annual competition happen. And so we prepared and responded to that. And then there was also actually a special competition to address unsheltered homelessness. So to funnel some more money into working to reduce unsheltered homelessness. We haven't received notice whether or not kind of what the outcome of that competition is. So hopefully soon we'll know how we were funded under that. But part of that, the special competition, we had to create a plan to serve people experiencing homelessness with severe service needs. And so through a kind of collective, we had got input from you, the general membership, we had input from our governing board, we got some input from people with lived experience about everything that's happening in the spaces of street outreach, emergency shelter, and low barrier permanent housing. And through that, I compiled a document, a 15-page document that kind of puts it all into like perspective of what we're currently doing and what we want to continue to focus on and grow on and improve on in the future. So having that kind of everything we're doing all in one document is really, really exciting to me. And I think we'll be able to use that and kind of see our progress and kind of update that year over year. And then just lastly, I wanted to point out that the CoC has continued to just strengthen its governance structure. Being a new continuum, there's a lot of kind of nuances and just requirements that the government wants, the CoC program wants to see that we have to create. So it just takes time to get through these, and we've definitely put a lot of work into that this year. So before I move on to goals for next year, I did want to just see if there was any thoughts on any of this, or if there were other accomplishments that maybe I didn't point out in this letter that we wanted to shout out today. Okay, I just did a great job of putting it all down. All right. So looking into the future here, our goals for 2023, we are getting very close to ending veteran homelessness. It's been our goal for many years. And I really do think that this coming year is when we're going to be able to reach what we call functional zero. And so functional zero is when our system is working well enough that when someone is identified, a veteran who is identified as being homeless, enters into the system, we're able to house either that person or house another person, so that our balance, our inflow and our outflow of people experiencing homelessness is at a very low level, and we're just able to house people quickly. And it changes every month a little bit depending on how many people are identified and how many people are housed. But roughly, if we housed 15 veterans every month this year, we would reach functional zero and functionally end veteran homelessness. So like we're very close. There's definitely still things that are making it hard, but we did receive some funding to provide some flexible assistance to get veterans housed faster. That'll be rolling out pretty soon. And we're going to be working on trying to just really try to get the flow of when someone has a resource, they are getting quickly into housing. So really focusing on doing things as fast as possible. Let's see some of the other things. So we're going to be prioritizing system improvements and addressing disparities in our system. We already have several groups, several committees and work groups working on kind of understanding what disparities exist in our system, and then implementing changes. We will be hiring a position called a system improvement manager. We're going to be hiring soon to help kind of maintain momentum, and just make sure we're everything, all the different work groups and committees that are happening with the CoC are kind of aligned, and it's just all streamlined and focused on just have an improvement mindset. Elevating lived experience. So this past year, we've had a group, a committee meeting to kind of plan out what it would look like to have a CoC lived experience council. It has taken, some time. We want to make sure we're doing that well, and setting that council up for success to really be able to provide insight to the board and just the general direction of the CoC. Also part of that was we needed to make sure we could pay council members for their experience or for their expertise on the Lived Experience Council. And so we have secured that funding to be able to pay them stipends. And we have at least identified in Larimer County a peer lead to kind of be the point of contact for that Lived Experience Council from Larimer County. And we're working on doing the same in Weld County as well. So that should be kind of up and going, and we'll be hearing from our Lived Experience Council hopefully later on this year. Some other goals, just increasing funding for CoC activities. We're doing a lot of great work and we need money to fund it. So continuing to focus on increasing funding coming into our community. And then strategic planning, monitoring, and those things are just always something that we're trying to work on. As a new CoC, the strategic planning process, we have not gone through a formal one. I would love to have that happen either this year or next year. Monitoring, just monitoring for programs that receive CoC or emergency solutions grant funding. That's something the CoC is supposed to do, and we have not done in any kind of earnest way currently, but we're working really, like, it will be happening this year just because of some expanded capacity we have. So those are goals for sure. And then lastly here, just statewide coordination. So we have representatives that kind of represent Northern Colorado on several statewide initiatives related to homelessness. I think it's very impactful for Northern Colorado's perspective to be on those because a lot of it is very Denver metro area centric because of course that's the largest area. There's a lot more homelessness in that area, but it's really important to have Northern Colorado voice at the statewide level. And so definitely continuing to do that. Any thoughts or questions on any of that? Okay. All right, well, then we'll just move on. Let's see. So the next kind of update I have for you is we're getting a new website. I'm very excited. Our CoC website was made several years ago and was a great kind of first iteration of a website for us. Done kind of, like I said earlier, all of the work that's been up until, maybe a year or two ago is just volunteer work. And so the website was part of that. But we are getting a new website. It's going to be fantastic. I'm going to give a shout out to Madwire because they're providing that pro bono to us. And they're hosting it for us for a year. So hopefully they're working on it right now and it should be up and running, I would say by the end of February is what we're shooting for. So if you have ideas on, it's still kind of in the development stage. So if you have ideas on what you would really like to see in a CoC website, please send those to me and I'll add it to our list. Okay. Great. So I'm going to transition here. I realize this is a lot of me talking at you, so apologies for that. But if anyone has questions or anything, definitely hop on in. And Kippy, I did see your comment in the chat. And yes, the Youth Action Board is definitely something that we know we need. I think currently our focus has been just getting a lived experience council in general up and going, since we don't have anything like that. But there is some exciting things happening in the youth homelessness space that I think will lend itself to creating a youth action board in the future. So, okay. Great. So I'm going to transition here to just touching on the point in time count and the housing inventory count. So the point in time count is, if you're not familiar with it, every year HUD requires continuums of care to coordinate a point in time. So one night out of the year where we count as many people as we can experiencing homelessness in our region. And so this has to be done the last 2 weeks of January every year. I don't really know why they decided January was the month for that, because counting people experiencing unsheltered homelessness in January is very challenging. And also we know that unsheltered homelessness kind of changes. It goes up in the summer and is lower in the winter. And so, you know, but that's not something we can decide. That the government tells us we have to do it. So this year, our point in time count is January 24th. So that's a Tuesday. That's the night of the 24th is the night in question that we are going to be counting to see how many people are experiencing homelessness. We've had a committee working, like a larger committee, and then kind of sub-region committees working on planning the count to make it as comprehensive as possible. And then we're going to be doing a training actually later today for providers that are working on the count to kind of go through everything. This year, it's exciting to see some of the progress that we've been able to make as far as our ability to use data that we've already collected for the count so that we don't have to survey as many people directly. So our homeless management information system, our HMIS, is the database many of our direct service providers use. And so most of the data of people using services on that night is just going to be pulled directly from that database. And so we don't have to go and ask people to survey them. We are going to, though, have more of a effort to canvass and survey for our unsheltered count. Particularly, one of the things that we're changing this year, expanding this year, is we're going to be having efforts for unsheltered count in kind of the more, not the three main cities. So Berthoud, Estes Park, Windsor, Fort Lupton, and kind of Carbon Valley area. We have groups that are going to be kind of working to get a count of people experiencing homelessness in those areas, which we haven't really had before to really any concerted degree. So that's exciting that we'll have that and just be able to show a little bit more of reality of where, you know, where homelessness is in Larimer and Weld. At the same time as the point in time count, we also do something called a housing inventory count, or a HIC. The housing inventory count is basically like a snapshot of all of the what's called resources dedicated to people experiencing homelessness. So how many shelter beds are there? How many spaces in transitional housing projects? How many rapid rehousing spaces? How many permanent supportive housing spaces? Like all of those kinds of things. That's what we are counting. And then we kind of cross-reference the number of people counted in the point in time count with the number of units that we show as being dedicated to people experiencing homelessness through the housing inventory count. And then that part of that is we can show that we have a high utilization, or ideally we have a high utilization of our resources to show, yes, we have these beds, they're being used, we need them. If anything, we need more of them. And the government takes that and kind of uses that in their calculations for funding support. Any questions on the point in time or housing inventory counts? Okay. All right, well, we're moving along here. So next up is I wanted to talk about some CoC governance related updates and changes and things like that. So first, I'm excited to share with you, we have new continuum of care staff. So previously, we've had Summer Garcia as our CAPS coordinator. Summer's still with us, but we were able to hire a second CAPS coordinator and kind of split that position into two. And so we hired Veronica Sias as our CAPS community coordinator. And Veronica, I think I see you on. Do you mind introducing yourself?
Hi, everyone. I'm excited to be here. And I was previously the AmeriCorps, so I was participating in the CAPS and CoC that way.
Yes. So Veronica and Summer are working very closely together. Basically, Veronica's taking more of the kind of forward-facing, facilitating CAPS meetings and things like that, kind of being the point of contact for CAPS partners. And then Summer is going to be managing our by name list and kind of the data related to CAPS, creating our policies and procedures and things of that nature. But they'll be working really closely together. We also hired a new HMIS data analyst, and I think Josh is on the call. Yes. Hey, Josh, do you want to introduce yourself? We can come back to you if you want. All right. And then we will be hiring a CoC system improvement manager. So we received funding through Community Solutions to hire a system improvement manager for at least up to 2 years, but it's something that the board has identified as a need. So we'll be fundraising to make sure that is as much as possible to make sure that that is a permanent position. But so the system improvement manager is going to be working on just kind of like big level, really coordinating all of the different committees and work groups of the CoC and making sure that we are identifying areas that need improvement and actually making progress on that. So yes, so it sounds like Josh's audio is not working, but he lives in Maine and he's got a lot of experience working with data, and he's jumped in and already been doing lots of stuff and working with Rachel Kirkland, who's our HMIS administrator. So we're really excited and happy to have him. Excellent. All right, so let's see. The next thing kind of related to, in addition to hiring another CAPS focused person, I will say part of being able to hire Veronica as the CAPS community coordinator came out of one of the grants that we received through the Continuum of Care program to improve our CAPS process for victims of domestic violence. And so one of the things that one of the big focuses of both Veronica and Summer is going to be making sure that we're implementing changes to our CAPS process so that victims of domestic violence have equal access to housing resources and are just like the whole process is working just as well for that population that has a lot of confidentiality requirements and kind of different barriers and challenges than people who might be using mainstream homelessness resources. So that's something as well. And kind of within that, though, we're working on improving our case conferencing process for victim service providers. But we're also working on improving case conferencing and just the general process for CAPS in general. And so earlier this week, we held a large group meeting of our CAPS partners to kind of roll out, this is what we're doing. And the main changes are, we're going to be moving away from case conferencing. So case conferencing is when we all get together and talk about people's specific needs and get them, ideally, get them from homeless to housed. But we were finding that those meetings there just wasn't a lot of time to talk about housing navigation, like the actual getting people into housing, or really talk about people's barriers in the moment. There was a lot more talking about getting people actually connected to a resource. So like who's going to get this voucher? That was a good chunk of the time. And so we've been kind of working for several months on figuring out how to make that process better. And we landed on some changes that really came out of the Community Solutions Built for Zero model, that instead of doing case conferencing based on population, so based on this group of providers that works with families is only meeting and talking about families, and this group is only talking about single adults, and this group's, those were the two main ones. So instead of doing it that way, we're changing the process where we're having a meeting to talk about people that as they get identified and kind of what are their initial barriers and things like that. So that identification assessment bucket, and in that trying to kind of create a prioritized list for what resources we know are coming up. And then we'll have a shorter meeting to actually match people with resources. And then another meeting where we are going to be case conferencing people who are attached to a resource and really just need to get, like they have the resource, they just need to find a place. And so that is something we're going to roll out in February. We had a whole long meeting to talk about all the ins and outs. And so I just kind of shared that very condensed. But if you have questions, if you haven't heard of the changes or things like that, please reach out to Summer and Veronica. And we actually have a new email for our CAPS team. So I don't know, Veronica or Summer, if you could just pop that in the chat, that would be helpful for folks. That would be ideally, that's the contact, this email that they're going to put in there. It's just caps@United Way at Weld, because then it's going to be seen by multiple people and not just one person. Okay. Moving on here. Some other updates on governance. So we are at the time where we need to renew our membership agreements. So the last time we did membership, kind of got new membership agreements signed was in 2020. Since then, some of you have signed the old agreement kind of within the last couple of years. And some of you haven't, you signed it in 2020 and that was that. And then some of you actually, we haven't gotten a membership agreement from. And so we created a new document. And so that we'll be sending that out to everybody after this meeting. And so we're going to need to get the new membership agreement signed by all of our partner agencies that want to be considered kind of a CoC partner. I will go through the agreement quickly here so you won't be surprised when you see it. So it looks very similar if you remember the last one. Kind of shows this is the basic structure of the CoC. Outlines what the different kind of roles are. CoC partners, that's all of you. Each partner does need to identify a voting member. So that's one person from your agency that's committing to coming to these meetings. There are a few times that members vote, but they're also, in addition to being a voting member, you are kind of, if there's public comment that we need, or if we want to make sure to get feedback from our kind of core group of folks like that, I send that communication to the voting members. So you may not be voting all that often, but you are kind of would be the one that would be the main point of contact at your agency about CoC stuff. Let's see. stakeholders are anyone that wants to come that doesn't feel kind of feel like they are able to commit to being a member. And we have the board, which I'll talk about in a second, the different committees and work groups, and then the general membership meetings, which is this. Membership contributions. So membership contributions, you may have seen the letter requesting membership contributions that went out kind of mid-December. So every year we do request that our member agencies if they're able, find some amount to contribute to the work of the continuum of care. It is not a requirement to be a member. However, I mean, if you go back through all of the accomplishments that we kind of went over earlier in the meeting, we're still new, and it is really like we're still working on building up our financial capacity to fund all of this. And a lot of what we've been able to accomplish is because we have been able to pull in more dollars from our partners, but then from different grants and foundations and things like that. But there is a lot of benefit that we feel we contribute to our partner agencies, particularly around my staff capacity, CAPS work, and then also the HMIS system, which is free for all users. So thinking about that, just wanting to kind of clarify that request, I will be sending that letter out again just with this email. So if you haven't already committed, and actually quite a few agencies have, so I did want to thank you all. We are on track to meet the budget that we wanted and actually potentially exceed it, but as much, any amount helps. It really does. So decision-making process, this kind of outlines the decision-making, and all of this is in our charter that you all received for public comment that actually did pass. So that is, that's our new version is there. So that I'll be sending that out as well. But so this is the part you would actually fill out. So you would have your organization name, and an individual is if you are not affiliated with an organization or an agency and you're just participating as a community member. And then selecting which sectors you feel like represent you or your agency. This is based on if we have to show in our show HUD kind of the different types of agencies that we have as part of our membership. And so that's these categories come directly from the CoC program kind of interim rule and guidelines. So, and then it'll ask you to identify a voting member for your agency. And then it'll ask if there are any other, in addition to the voting member, if there is any other person or representative at your agency that either currently is participating in CoC committees and work groups, or if not currently, you would like to potentially participate in the future, or would like to be kind of on our contact list. And then these are the different kind of standing committees that we have. So you can select which ones either you're currently on or you would like to be on. And then just signing and dating. So pretty simple. But I will be sending that out to everyone, like I said, after this meeting. I would request that they be back by February 8th as well. Let's see. All right. Any questions on any of that? Okay. All right. Well, and the last thing I have on my kind of my agenda before we turn it over to you all to give updates and information and everything is I did want to let you all know, as of this morning, we've officially been able to confirm our 4 new board members. So we did send out board elections. Thank you for everyone who voted. We had a really high turnout of votes, so I was really pleased about that. And so we have Sarah Sullivan is a new board member, Carrie Clark, Kendra Bornhoft, and Derek Bergston. And so if any of you are on the call, any of our new board members, I don't know if all of you were able to make it today, but if any of you are on the call, would you mind introducing yourself?
I am, so I guess I'll go first. Hi, everybody. I'm Carrie Clark, the Executive Director of Alternatives to Violence. I have been here for coming on 5 years and been part of the CoC, and impressed with the work that the CoC has accomplished in the 5 years, almost 5 years that I've been here. So looking forward to being on the board, and thank you.
I'll go. So I'm Kendra Bornhoft. I'm the Director of Programs at Catholic Charities serving Larimer County. I'm very excited for this opportunity. I work every single day, the hands and feet with every homeless person that comes through our door. And it's great to have an opportunity to be a part of something bigger and more collaborative efforts to do and continue the work that, I'm doing every day at my regular job. So I'm excited for it. I've been here about 2.5 years as the director. And I'm really excited to move forward and have this new experience and opportunity.
Is Sarah Sullivan, and I am a new board member. I currently work at First Bank, and I've been with First Bank for the past 6 years. I recently moved back to Northern Colorado last year in 2022. I'm coming from the private sector to hopefully provide a little bit of financial experience and help with the next chapter of CoC's kind of financial oversight, and really excited for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you all. I think Chief Bergson had jury duty today, he said. So I'm very jealous. He actually got selected for jury duty, which I would love, but had never been called. I don't think they'd want me anyway, but I'll probably get selected out. But so Chief Derek Bergson is the Chief of Fire at the Poudre Fire Authority. And so he will be also joining the board. Okay, wonderful. Well, so before I turn it over for updates, was there any thoughts, questions, anything related to kind of that hour that I spent talking at you? All right. Excellent. So I'm going to turn this over. So what I'm hoping for out of this is I like to do this out in kind of buckets of different sectors, I guess. And so the first one is going to be like sheltering, day center, agencies that do sheltering or kind of provide resource navigation, things like that, street outreach, all of that. And if you could kind of share what's going on, particularly around, preparing for winter. I know we had just like really massive storm a couple of weeks ago, kind of just how things are going. And then also if there's any new programs or anything, please share that. So I'll kind of put the floor out for those programs that do sheltering, day center, or street outreach.
I can start. This is Allison in Loveland. So we took over what was formerly the 137 Homeless Connection site in July, and have been, well, it feels like we're always in the beginning phases of this. So I'll have to check in with Catholic Charities and Fort Collins Rescue Mission to see if that ever goes away. But we have we still have a pretty small capacity. We have a fire marshal capacity of 20 spots inside of the Loveland Resource Center. We have 4 humanitarian tents behind the center, of which 2 of them work from time to time. So we've also been utilizing motels for month after month. And we're setting up a secondary site also with tents that should be in operation, I'm going to say, beginning of February. When we had the cold spell, I think this is how this happened, but fortunately, because of the migrants coming up from Denver, the Red Cross got involved and they created some spots for the people who were here temporarily to stay at the embassy suites. And they allowed us to have 30 spaces, and it's in a conference room, mats on a floor, basically, through the cold spell as well. So, historically, Loveland has sheltered about 30 people with about a maximum capacity when the House of Neighborly Services operated the rotational shelter program. And it was pretty incredible to see that we were able to shelter right around 80 people during those 3 cold days. So we're looking forward to expanding the capacity of Loveland in a great way. In terms of street outreach, we applied for some funding with Outreach Fort Collins and United Way of Weld County. We've yet to hear about that, but the goal would be to create a program that is identical as it can be in all of Northern Colorado, so that we're operating as one. And as soon as we hear about that funding, we'll be able to hit the ground running. That's all. Thanks.
Thanks, Allison.
I can go. I'm Sydney, the day center manager with Family Housing Network. We recently had 2 vacancies in our overnight program. So right now we have 2 open spots. If anyone has families who are in need of shelter in Fort Collins. And as always, our day center has open space as well as our case management program.
I can go next. I'm Seth Forwood from Fort Collins Rescue Mission. Can you all hear me? Okay, thanks. So we have a capacity of about 106 in our main location, and we've partnered with the city to expand using a conference room that the city owns to 146 in the very cold snap that we experienced a couple weeks ago. We pulled up, all of our furniture from our offices and put down mats. And so we got to about 112 capacity in our main location, and then 40, 41 or 42 at the overflow site. So we're very full, but we were able to also get everyone into shelter who wanted to come into shelter. I'm sure Homeward Alliance will talk about this too, but I just wanted to say thank you to Homeward Alliance for spearheading also a effort to secure hotel rooms and be sure that even if all the shelters were full, the hotel rooms could shelter those who needed. So we're also in the process of exploring if we can build a new shelter in Fort Collins. We have land, we have some funding, and we just applied for those transformational dollars for capital funds, and that will be a big milestone to see the feasibility of building a brand new shelter of about 200 beds in North Fort Collins. So that takes up a lot of our time, and we're still, unsure if that's a viable project yet. We hope it is, because if it's not, frankly, I don't know what we're going to do to expand capacity. I should also mention that Paula Ordaz is on this call. She is the director of shelter and is a great point person for any questions about capacity or open spaces. And she's the person that represents Fort Collins Rescue Mission in a lot of CoC meetings. So I don't want to overlook her. She is essential and a great part of the CoC as part of Fort Collins Rescue Mission. Paula, did I miss anything else to update the
No.
group?
No, I think that was about it, particularly for our cold weather days. And then during that cold weather time, we do keep our overflow guests from Jefferson location inside to the best capacity that we can. But yeah, you covered all the main points.
Yeah, just as a reminder for people not familiar with Fort Collins Rescue Mission, we have about 80 24/7 beds. And those are men who stay with us and can stay with us all day long. We also put mats down in our cafeteria in the evening after dinner service so that we can expand. But of course, those aren't 24/7 beds unless we have an inclement weather event, and then we try to keep people in all day long. And Paula and her team do a stellar job at navigating all the dynamics that come with many people packed in a small building. So thanks to you all.
Thank you.
I can go next, mostly because I have to drop off early. Kippy Clausen, Colorado Rural Collaborative. A couple important updates, and Mark, I'll let you chime in after this. We were awarded a street outreach grant, which includes parts of Larimer and Loveland this year, which is really great. So we got one of the coveted FISBE grants. So we have our site leads right now, which is Centennial Bosse's Mark Fortney, and then Shiloh House with Gia, and she's new to this role, so I'll make sure she gets connected to this committee. We still have our Basic Center grant and our transitional living program. Basic Center provides short-term emergency shelter for young people under the age of 18. We are working this year to hopefully untangle the challenges with the current host home rule, because we know a lot of our young people are doubled up. And so we are working on that. And then of course, our TLP grant, if you have a young person between the ages of 16 up to the age of 22, who currently needs housing, we can provide some basic support and housing support for young people in that age group to about a year and a half. And there's just a handful of requirements we have to follow since they are young adults. And then this year, we also expanded our DOH host home program that we get from the state. Matthews House also has this in Larimer, but we did expand it to include your counties, just because, you know, this is a big project that we use quite a bit. And then the last announcement, which is probably the biggest announcement, is Balance Estate CoC was awarded a Youth HUD demonstration project grant. This brings $2.9 million into the 54 counties within Colorado, but we are in the process of writing our coordinated combined plan. And I will make sure, Kelly, or I'll put the link in here just so you guys know what that is. Why I'm bringing this up is we currently have almost all of the children's state partners involved in this. We also hear the governor's office more than likely is going to start participating. And we wanted to reach out to you all. I've reached out to the other CoCs. If there's any interest in mirroring or learning through this, we're happy to help you with that. We believe that this will be, we don't believe, we know this will be the first statewide plan to prevent and end youth homelessness. And because it's covering 54 counties, we believe that a lot of the state decisions and the strategies will bubble out into other counties. So we just want to put out an offer to support that. I have been talking to Pikes Peak. I believe they are going to plan for to apply for a YHDP grant. We believe those grants will be coming out. We think there will be one more round, and we think they'll be coming out somewhere around April, but we are certainly happy. The Colorado Rural Collaborative actually wrote the application for Balance Estate with the support of CCH. But we're more than happy to assist if you all decide to go for this grant. We're more than happy to assist however we can. We think these are great resources, but it really, all I can tell you is it's massive TA. And that's really good. But we will be doing system modeling. So we're going to have to update our HMIS. One thing that may be of interest to this group, we have been selected nationally to receive intensive education TA. So we're going to be working with school districts, and we have to primarily lean into Balance Estate counties, but I do think there are some of our districts that blend into those counties. So look for more information. But if you need any information about that, please let me know. We know this will be a game changer for Balance of State. We think it'll be a game changer for any CoC that gets this, because it will give you resources and it will give your CoC a unified plan on what you're going to do to end and prevent youth homelessness. And then the last grant, I will tell you that we were just awarded. We were awarded from Colorado Department of Education, an outreach and emergency assistance grant. We know that I think I can't remember exactly who it is, but you do have a grantee. I think it's attached to Poudre school districts. One of the things that happened with students because of COVID is the census went down about 30%. So not only for traditional students, but also those who are at risk of or currently homeless. This grant is a really great outreach opportunity. So I think of you guys in Loveland and others to really coordinate on this, because the goal is to have a community partner that is out there finding young people and helping get those young people back into school. And so you do have a grantee. We also have a grantee. We also are a grantee, so we have some limited resources for your county, but we will, be reaching out with more details. And Mark is our great McKinney-Vento liaison that might be able to tell a little bit more about that. But that's the new grant, which increases capacity for outreach.
Well said, Kippy. My name is Mark Fortney. I'm a master social worker with Centennial Board of Cooperative Educational Services. And my career, it's been more than 20 years. So that's who I am. I have lived and living experience. And so we look forward to hearing from you, however we can problem solve. When you come across a young person and they are under the age of 21, they have the federal right to complete their education, whether it's in Colorado state law also says that some sort of educational avenue needs to be provided. So whether it's high school, alternative setting, online, GED. And what we know is that the adults out there, we don't know everything, but more than 50% of the adults were once solo, unaccompanied, or they didn't have their own home when they were also a child too. So thanks a lot for the preventative work when we can work together. So yeah, our street outreach and our 21-day sheltering youth host home, whether it begins with high quality outdoor survival resources or just moving from place to place, from garage to couch, we provide that. So I look forward to hearing back from you all. Any sort of problem solving too. And then of course every district is mandated to have a homeless education liaison. And so if you go on our website or Colorado Department of Education, you can find them or reach out to me too. I'm your regional specialist, so I work in 55 school districts, serving as a council, and in addition, 16 counties. So as I put in the chat, that's all my contact information, but we're also doing the youth pit. So we're providing $10 for each young person that fills it out. So feel free to reach out to me if you'd like to coordinate. Thank you very much for all your time and effort and collaboration.
Mark, I'm going to have Veronica talk to you about the pit. Other shelter, day center, street outreach updates. We have a lot of you on, so I'm excited to get all these in one spot.
I can go. So things around our shelter have been busy. We've had a little bit of a swing. We were dealing with a lot of capacities of families and quite less single women. And now we're swinging back towards, we have a lot of single women coming in, and our families are kind of, the numbers are going down. We have seen a decrease in numbers over the last week. Last night we had 53 single women. We have 18 in our extended stay program, 6 families and 7 vets. We have been having between 70 to 85 for single women, so it's a little low right now. We are really trying to work on some different things within the shelter, really focusing on security and kind of de-escalation. We've had kind of some more difficult situations happen over the last few weeks, so we're trying to kind of respond to that a little bit and work through some of those things. One big thing that we are doing right now that we've been doing, but it's starting to kind of grow, is we are doing resource navigation with our overflow. So any clients that are not eligible for our extended stay or don't want to be part of that program, or, you know, families and single women that have been here for kind of ongoing long periods of time, we are working with them through a navigator, our kind of in-house navigator, to work on some resource navigation to give them kind of some blanket supports and resources for them. We started with the families that were coming through, and so far it's worked very well. We've been able to kind of give some temporary periods of sobriety, enough time for them to be able to get into the program. So it's been super effective. We could be continuing that along. We've also brought in several new programs that we've been able to implement for both overflow and extended stay. Those are really being utilized. So that's been really great. We are, as a couple of people have mentioned, working on a lot of grants right now. It's very busy with grants. And we're hopeful for some of those to kind of start some other things we're trying to do. The biggest project we have right now is our executive director is now overseeing the Guadalupe shelter in Weld County and our shelter. So this has been quite a transition. And it's been kind of a really good thing. So we've been able to pair up and collaborate a lot more with that shelter, and that's been extremely helpful in finding additional placement for our families and single women that are needing to find emergency shelter, and we don't have the capacity for it. And we've also been able to get that emergency kind of sheltering service put in place quicker. So right now, that's really the biggest transition, is moving our shelter director over to theirs as well. There'll be more changes to come with that. And as far as preparing for a winter, so far I think things have gone pretty well. We are doing emergency shelter weather when we're getting bad weather. We're partnering with several agencies that are on this call in the city of Fort Collins, and you know, lifting the bans on anyone that's been banned, allowing people in the shelter, and then we're hiring security to oversee kind of just that extra step for them to be able to come in. So far, anytime we've had emergency weather, it's gone smooth. We haven't had any issues. So we're hopeful for that to continue. Other than that, that's really about it for us.
Thanks, Kendra. I think Mark, I think I see you on. Do you have any updates just while we're on Catholic Charities? Do you have anything for Guadalupe?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
We don't have any updates. Miss Kendra kind of talked about some of the changes for us too. So it was nice to be able to work with Miss Kendra the other day on some things. And we are full right now for families in our transitional extended stay program in Guadalupe. We still do have overflow for families, but we haven't been seeing a lot of people coming to our overflow. So we do have overflow every night for families and single women from 8 p.m. to 8 in the morning. They get to meet with the case manager, and we try to give resources. But we've seen inconsistent numbers with that.
Thanks.
I can jump in. So I'm Sean Walcott, Director of Household Stability with United Way of Weld County. So our day shelter and overnight shelter are fully staffed finally. So that's exciting, specifically our resource navigator team for the first time in 8 or so months. We're always hiring for more shelter staff though. The day shelter got their showers completely finished yesterday. So we finally have showers here in Weld County people can access. The overnight shelter has a bed capacity of 60, and we've been full pretty much every single night. During the extreme cold, we did get emergency approval to increase capacity to 70. And then there was a great community collaboration with Salvation Army, Catholic Charities Guadalupe, and the city of Greeley. So there was an emergency shelter stood up by Salvation Army that was able to shelter another 19 people. So we had 70 plus the 19, and then a whole bunch of other people got put into motel overflow, which we do have funding for this season. So thankfully we haven't had to turn anybody away, even though we've been full. And then in terms of street outreach, like Allison mentioned, there's some grants that are in the pipeline that will hopefully expand outreach across Northern Colorado in collaboration with Outreach Fort Collins, City of Loveland, as well as some harm reduction focused opportunities in collaboration with North Range and North Colorado Health Alliance, CoC. So that's pretty exciting. And then we're hoping to be able to increase the capacity for housing navigation and resource navigation in partnership with the City of Greeley and North Range, which will potentially have housing vouchers attached. So that's pretty exciting, and we'll see if there's more news on that in the future. Yeah, otherwise it's business as usual. Still waiting for more affordable housing to be developed so we can get people out of the shelters. But yeah, if you have any questions, please let me know.
Thank you. We have, I see we have several of our DV agencies on our shelters. Any updates from you all?
Well, this is Diane from A Woman's Place in Greeley. We continue to be busy, but also encourage people to call the crisis lines if you have somebody that needs services, and we can help, but no other major updates.
Okay. All right. Is there any other shelter, street outreach day center updates before we move on?
Hi, Deb DeMille, Hope at Miracle House. We, as of last night, we have a room available for a family that could go up to 4 to 5 at the most. Other than that, we're just staying full and busy. Wish we weren't full, wish we weren't busy, but being the only one in South Weld, it's kind of, but we're kind of stuck out here too. So people kind of have to have a vehicle or some kind of transportation unless they want to just stay here in Fort Lupton. But if you all know of any family that needs it, just send them to us. I'll put my information in the chat. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for doing that, Deb. Putting your info in there. Okay. All right. I'm gonna move us forward to housing. So housing, like permanent housing projects, orgs that help people stay housed, get rent assistance, things like that. Housing authorities, vouchers, all that stuff.
Hi, I can give a quick update from Housing Catalyst. I'm Michelle Christensen. We will be opening a wait list later this month for project-based voucher housing for 2 and 3 bedroom households. The reason we do only 2 and 3 bedroom households is the waiting list for 1 bedrooms is still quite lengthy. If you want to be notified of when we open wait lists, you can go onto the Housing Catalyst website and give us your email, and then you should receive a notification when the wait list does open. And Housing Catalyst was also one of 4 housing authorities in Colorado who recently received some additional mainstream vouchers. Those vouchers are targeted to non-elderly disabled with a preference given to people experiencing homelessness. We received 30 of those. So not a lot, but we'll take any that were offered. The cool thing about these is they also came with what the HUD is calling extraordinary administration fees, which can be used to assist people to get housed. So you can pay for things like deposits and application fees, help with moving expenses,
arrears, things like that. So it's encouraging that HUD is recognizing that those additional dollars go a long way to getting people actually housed. I think that's it. Thanks.
Thanks, Michelle.
I'll go next, Kelly. This is Jody Hartman with High Plains Housing Development. Just continuing to put our project forth as a potential new permanent supportive housing project in Weld County. We are in kind of the 11th hour stages of preparing a application to CHAFA for tax credits. If awarded in May, we would begin to build this project probably in about 2024 and hopefully be leasing in 2025. So this is a new permanent supportive housing project located in North Greeley. We're calling it the North Weld Village Phase 1. It would be 58 units of 58 one-bedroom units providing permanent supportive services, housing and services. Volunteers of America will be our lead services provider, and we're pretty excited to be partnering with them. And I just want to shout out to Michelle. We just did another tour of the Red Tail Ponds yesterday and have been really actually privileged to be able to learn from Housing Catalyst and the Red Tail Ponds and Mason Place projects. They are providing a lot of guidance to us and our funders and our boards. So I really appreciate that. And I guess it's just another example of how great this continuum of care is, and that we're working together to really make sure that all of the needs are met in both counties. So Sean, I'm trying hard to get you that housing that you need so that you can get people out of your shelters. I certainly hear that loud and clear. Thank you.
We will keep our fingers crossed for that CHAFA application. It's a really big deal. Any other housing programs, voucher program, any other housing related updates?
Hi, this is Deidre with Rocky Mountain Human Services. We still have plenty of money for veterans experiencing homelessness, so we can help with deposit, with rent, and things like that. And we also subcontract with a law firm, so we can help people like quash warrants, or if they need to go to court for something, we can help get them connected to a lawyer. So I will put our intake line in the chat, but feel free to send any homeless veterans our way.
Good.
Kelly, this is Corinne. I'll go ahead and go next. I'm Corinne with Weld County Human Services. We had run our ERA rental assistance program through COVID money, which ended back in August. We finished processing those applications the end of December. So that program officially came to an end. However, the county did receive some additional funds through the COVID money. And we are in the process of hiring right now a supervisor and a couple of case managers to provide some housing stabilization, case management. We have additional rental assistance money, but we want to tie case management to it. When we were running the program the past couple of years, the volume of applications we had and the amount of staff, we weren't able to provide case management. It was really just about getting the dollars out and getting people's rent paid. So we're trying to shift that now. We're still getting a large volume of rental assistance applications or requests, but the program is not running. So we're hoping in the next, and we should get a supervisor. We're interviewing next week. A few weeks later, we'll be interviewing for the case manager positions that's still currently posted. Hopefully by the beginning of March, we'll have that program up and going.
And I can share real fast about our housing deposit assistance at the Navigation Center. So we do have homelessness prevention assistance program funds and emergency food and shelter funds that can be used for prevention assistance. And we do have some flexible funding from other sources that can help with deposits and random things, really anything you can think of, as long as it's able to help people stay housed or get housed, legal fees or car registration, pet registration, anything like that. And then related to the emergency food and shelter program funding, we were notified by FEMA that phase 40 will run concurrently with the current phases through December 2023. We haven't been notified yet of each region's exact funding yet, but as soon as we are, we'll be able to open applications again for that here in Weld County. So yeah, there's still assistance out there. Please send them to Navigation Center if they need any help finding some of that in Weld County.
I can go for neighbor to neighbor. No major updates. If you do have clients that are needing first month rent or deposit assistance, most of the funds we've been using are Larimer County or grant funding instead of DOLA funding. So Larimer County grant funding isn't as doesn't help as much money for each client. Like DOLA used to be able to help with potentially like 12 months, whereas Larimer County and grant funding is typically 1 or 2 months and also requires third-party documentation. It's a little bit higher barrier. So that might be something that your clients are running into. And also, if your clients in the past couple of months have had a wait time, we are working on different ways to reduce that wait time so that our housing specialists are getting back to clients in need sooner.
Thanks, Sabrina. I can give a little update on the emergency housing vouchers that we received from the state of Colorado. So the state of Colorado had 56 vouchers, emergency housing vouchers that are specifically for people experiencing homelessness that are selected through our CAPS process or coordinated entry. We had a very short timeline to be able to based on when we were notified of getting these vouchers and when they needed to be issued. But our in partnership with Connections for Independent Living in Greeley and then the state of Colorado for Larimer County just was able to administer the Larimer County ones. We were able to get all 56 voucher applications in on time, and many of them have been issued and are, some of them, I think a lot of them are already housed. So that was a huge accomplishment because we had basically 3 weeks to get everybody referred and get their applications in. So that was exciting. All right. Let's see. We can do more housing if you can hop in there, but I also want to open it up to youth services. If there's any youth specific, I know we already heard from Mark and Kippy. So if anyone from other youth programs want to chime in. I'm not seeing anyone from the Matthews house on.
I'm here. This is Kim Martin.
Oh, Kim, sorry.
You're good. No worries. I don't really have any major updates, at least not that I'm currently privy to. We're still trekking along here at the Matthews house. Currently, I know there have been a lot of questions as far as if we're taking community referrals, at-large referrals. And we are taking referrals. We're just not able to assign them right away. We have quite a wait list for our community referrals. So if you have interest or if you have a high need, we do try to triage based off of risk of homelessness and things like that. Please feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to put my email in the chat. As far as our host home program, it's still fairly limited. just because our recruitment has been slower for host home providers. We do have one youth who's in a host home currently, which is great. We do have 2 providers available, and I'd be happy again to share more information if that's a service that people are needing for some of their young people. But we also do have a lot of young people who are on our wait list for our host home. So we're hoping to amp up our recruitment here so that we can get more providers. If anyone has any leads on people who are interested as providers, that would be amazing. If you could send them our way, but those are current updates now.
Kim, do you happen to have any info on the youth shelter or no?
I don't, not necessarily. I mean, we did have some focus groups with ShopWorks, who is providing the trauma-informed like architecture, and we got the report back from that. So it was really neat to see the report and just what our focus group for our youth, what they had provided, and also for just our staff as well. I'm not totally sure if that's something I can send out to everyone. I would need to run that by Nicole, but if that is something that I can send out, I'd be happy to forward that on. So that's the update I have. Nicole is kind of leading the charge as far as the youth shelter.
Great. Excellent. So I'll open it up. Is there any other veteran specific updates or information outside of what Deidre shared?
Hey everyone, this is Hunter chiming in from the VA. Nothing too significant outside of what's been shared. We do have a new staff member on our team. Her name is Danielle Matra, and she's a new outreach social worker with the VA. You'll see her out and about in the community at different spots. So that's exciting, able to expand some of our outreach capacity, get to some other locations we haven't been, at least physically able to reach, which we're excited about. And we also should know within probably 2 or 3 days whether nationally we reached our goal of housing 38,000 veterans in the calendar year. We were, as a CoC, in combination, or I guess in partnership with the CoC in Wyoming, we were about 14 veterans away from meeting our goal for the calendar year. And those 14 veterans would have been housed in December. And based on the data that I saw come through, I think that we're going to hit our mark. But we, like I said, we should know in just a few days. So that's exciting stuff. Anyways, please don't hesitate to reach out. If you encounter any veterans, have questions about VA eligibility or programming, always happy to help and appreciate working together with all you guys.
Thanks, Hunter. Any other veteran related updates? All right. Great. I'll open it up to mental and behavioral health. If anyone's with a program that focuses on mental and behavioral health, feel free to share. Okay. And then do we have anyone from kind of justice system, public safety, emergency response? No worries. All right. Well, the last one I have on my list here is from local government, local, state, county government, anyone from municipality, the county, or I think we may have someone from the state on as well. Looks like Brittany from the city of Fort Collins had to leave, but she did say in the chat, city of Fort Collins is working on a safe parking program. To just research and kind of figuring out if that's going to be feasible for Fort Collins. So that's exciting. Okay. Anyone that I missed that has an update? You didn't fall into one of those groups.
I can chime in quickly. Hi, Kelly. It's Kylie from United Way of Larimer County. My colleague Lauren typically attends these meetings, but she's not able to join today. So I don't have any funding related updates, but I did want to share with you all that we, as some of you all may know, are really starting to lean into some of our public policy work, specifically around housing. I think somebody mentioned earlier the need to develop and build and make possible, accessible and attainable and affordable housing in our community. And that's something that is really top of mind for us. And so we invite you all to join us as we learn how we can best leverage our position in the community, as well as our expertise in the context that we have to really ask for and advocate for more affordable housing in our community. Specifically for those of you all who are in the Fort Collins area, we do invite you all to join us on next Tuesday, January 17th, and I can drop this in the chat. Fort Collins City Council will be revisiting the Land Development Code and either choosing to send the Land Development Code to a ballot initiative or repeal the code based on a citizens initiative to repeal the code that secured sufficient signatures, and then go back to the community engagement process and revise the code. And we are inviting partners to join us in asking City Council to revise the code and repass while keeping in components of density and the affordable housing goals. So I'm happy to drop my information in the chat, as well as that 117 City Council meeting, but please, if you are able, spread the word, join us. We can't solve this without policy. So thank you all.
Thanks, Kylie. All right. Anyone else have anything they'd like to share?
I wouldn't mind sharing something real quick. I'm Brad with Outreach Fort Collins. Good morning, everybody. I missed my spot like a half an hour ago, sorry. We don't have huge updates either. We're fully staffed, waiting for some funding, somewhat impatiently at this point. But just wanted to add that during the cold snap right before Christmas, we had 2, if not 3 days of -20 up here in Fort Collins. And the level of collaboration and communication between the agencies up here was really inspiring and really wonderful to be a part of. And kind of what Kylie just said is like, that's the way we're going to be able to make a dent in this work that we're all doing is having these kind of conversations and using our strengths and recognizing our vulnerabilities and our weaknesses. So just wanted to say thanks to all the people who collaborated over that cold snap, because that was really, really dangerous. That was really dangerous. So sorry, my phone's ringing. Other than that, looking forward to working with Sean and Allison when we get our money. Thank you.
I like the optimistic. We will get it. I hope so. Awesome. Thanks, Brad. Okay, well, wonderful. If there's anything you want to send to me today to include, I'm going to be sending out kind of a recap of all the documents that we've covered, and just be expecting an email with lots of different things from me after this. Including the membership agreement to get that back in, and considering making a contribution from your agency to the work of the continuum. We do have our point in time count training later this afternoon. We sent invites out, so if you think you should be there and you didn't get an invite, let me know. We're going to record it though, so we can send that out as well. But otherwise, thank you all so much. We'll end a little bit early today. And I just really appreciate hearing all the wonderful work that's happening in Northern Colorado. Take care.